Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another declutter video. If you saw my last one, I did a fantasy declutter. Yes, no, I posted that 2 days ago, I believe. And in that video I basically went through my whole collection and I ended up decluttering, or like decluttering half of my collection. I have since thought that I would actually want to do a real declutter in my collection, and I thought a really good way to like kind of tackle that and look at like my palettes would be to look at those palettes that I decided to declutter in that series, because obviously I kept the kind of favorite half in that video and then the remaining half might be those that I want to declutter. So that's what I'm going to do today. So I really recommend that if you haven't seen that video that went up on Thursday, I would go and look at that first, because that will kind of give you a better overview of why I ended up putting these palettes in the like half decluttered pile. But before we jump into any of the palettes, I will place them here on the table in a second. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. But let's just jump into the video. So I hope most of these palettes are in frame. I will lift them up as well when I go through them. But yeah, these are the palettes I'm going to tackle today and potentially declutter. So I'm going to start by taking out the palettes that I'm obviously not going to declutter for a couple of reasons. And I'm going to start with these two right here. These are my Naked 1 and Naked 3, and these are two palettes that will be decluttered at the end of the year most likely. But I'm currently having these as focus palettes in my Panels eyeshadows, so these will not go yet. So this will go back to my collection and I'm not going to declutter them at this point. Another one that's quite obvious is obviously this palette here. This is my Panda palette, and yeah, obviously I'm not going to declutter this either because I'm currently working on it in a project. So these are the palettes that are left, and there's definitely a couple here that I do want to declutter, and I kind of already have some sort of idea of what I want to get rid of. But I am going to go through the ones that I'm easily keeping first and then kind of go and stay with the maybes afterwards. So a couple that I will definitely keep is my Subculture palette. I love this palette. It is beautiful. Yeah, this is staying. It's relatively new in my collection. The only reason kind of why I put this in the decluttered pile in the first place was because I had really similar colors in other palettes. So yeah, but I'm keeping this because I love this palette. Another one that I'm keeping is the next Anastasia palette that I have here, which is my Prism palette. This is an older palette, but it's new to my collection. I bought this off eBay last November or December, I believe, and I've already hit pan in 3 shades in here, and I really like this. I like how it's a mix of grungy tones as well as kind of more neutral, like everyday tones, and it has some really unique shades as well. Like this yellow here is really unique in my collection. Yeah, I don't know, it's just a nice palette and I really enjoy it. Another palette I'm not yet ready to declutter, but I know it's gonna have to be cluttered in maybe not this year, but maybe next year, and that's my Modern Renaissance palette. I love this. It is getting older in my collection, but it still performs decently, and I am panning a couple shades in here as well through different projects. Or I don't know, maybe it's just one shade left, but anyway, I am panning something in here, so I do want to keep it. I want to get more use out of it, but it is one that's going to go at some point, but it's not for this declutter. Okay, so what I'm going to take next, I think, is some of my ColourPop palettes, because as you can see, majority here now is ColourPop palettes. And there's a couple ones that I know for sure that I'm not going to declutter. And the first one is the Glowing Coconuts. I really like this. This is a really nice, like, everyday kind of palette. It's more on the cool tone side, but I feel like it has really unique tones. And yeah, I really enjoy this. It's, again, relatively new in my collection, so I am keeping this one. Another one that I'm keeping is my Dream Street palette. I like this as well. I like the layout of it. I like the mix of colors that are in here. I like that it's a mix of neutrals as well as some pops of colors, and I'm still kind of enjoying this the way it is. And the only shade that I switched out in here is the shade Sweet Dreams, because I didn't like the shade that was in here, and if you watched my Panels eyeshadows last year you would know that. So I just put a different shade in here, and I'm not sure which palette this comes from. It might be the actually original Mar palette possibly, but yeah, I like this, and this is staying in my collection. So I'm actually gonna go through some that I know that I'm gonna do declutter now, or at least one palette, because I have thought about this for a long time, and it's just one that I don't use very much, and that is the Give It To Me Straight palette, which in my collection is a mix of the Give It To Me Straight and the I Think I Love You palette. I put those two palettes together because I thought that I could create my perfect neutral palette from ColourPop, but even then I don't reach for these palettes, or this palette. And what I'm going to do with this, as well as some other things that I declutter, I don't think I'm actually going to declutter full palettes. What I'm going to do, especially with the ColourPop ones, is I'm going to depot the shades that I really enjoy from here, and then I'm going to get rid of the rest. So that's what I'm going to do. So I will kind of do that as the second half of this video. And yeah, this one is being decluttered. Another one that this is really difficult because I feel like I'm not quite ready to do it, but also I know that I don't reach for this palette. That is the Yes Please palette. For some reason I really enjoy this palette. Maybe it's nostalgic because it was ColourPop's first palette. It was like the first time I tried their pressed eyeshadows, and I don't know, it's just something about this that I do want to keep, but I just need to accept that I never used this. I mean, you can see that it's basically pretty much untouched apart from two shades, which are these two right here, which are in different projects. And yeah, spoiler alert, you will see a pan in here that will come in one of my updates very soon. But this one, I don't know, I don't feel like I love this anymore. And I do have a couple palettes that are very similar to this. Even like my Mar palette, which is a mix between the Mar and the Soul palette, it's like this palette but better for me because the pops of colors are more vibrant. I am missing a shade in here that I'm panning, but that's like a shade that's very similar to this orange here. So I feel like that's just kind of more my style rather than this now. And yes, there is an orange here which I really enjoy, but I have the Aha Honey palette. I also have loads of yellows in other palettes, and it might be one that I keep when I kind of depot certain shades in here, but I just don't reach it in this format. So I think it's time to get rid of this palette and depot the shades that I really want to keep, but the rest of this can go. And while I'm at it, I do think I'm going to keep the Mar palette for now because I do prefer that. And although I do have, like, again, kind of those pops of warm tones in other palettes, I don't really have these super bright shades, so I'm going to keep this. Maybe time to tackle my Juvia's Place palettes next. With these two, I think I'm gonna actually declutter one of them and keep the other one. The one that I'm gonna keep is the Deuce palette. I really like this. It's a beautiful color story. This was actually, I think, the last palette that I put into this pile, and it was really difficult to make that decision. So I definitely gonna keep this because I absolutely love this palette. And you have then figured that I'm actually gonna declutter the Masquerade palette, or I'm actually gonna depot this. So this is what the palette looks like, and the reason why I'm wanting to depot this is because there's lots of shades in here that I just don't reach for. This whole bottom half is neutrals, and I have better neutral palettes that I much prefer than this. So because of that, I am actually going to depot this, and I'm going to keep my favorite shades, which probably will be majority of these colors right here. There probably will be maybe one or two of those that I declutter, but I'm going to declutter most of these neutrals, or at least a couple. And again, I think I'm going to reach more for these shades if they are singles in my collection rather than in this palette. So these are the palettes that are left, and these are kind of, not all of them, but some of them are ones that I am on the fence about. And again, it's majority ColourPop. So the first one I'm not going to declutter yet is the Charlotte Darling, it's the ECI palette. This one I never actually used. I got this freebie purchase from Charlotte Tilbury, and I have swatched this, and the quality seems really nice, but I just haven't got around to playing with this yet due to me panning so many eyeshadows. And I know I sound like a broken record because I say that in most of my videos, but it's just the kind of reality of how I use makeup at the moment. And I think this quality is going to be really nice, and I think this is going to be a beautiful palette to bring maybe when I travel, we'll go for a weekend away or things like that. But for now I haven't reached for it yet, and that's why I ended up in this kind of part of my collection. And yeah, it's just not the most inspiring palette, but I think it's going to be a really convenient palette at certain points in my life, so I am keeping this one. This is when it gets a bit more difficult. Let's tackle the sheet palette next, because this is what it looks like. Again, I am panning two shades, which are why they're not in here, because I'm currently having them in my rotation. This again is a palette that is curated by me. It is a mix of the sheet palette and the Elemental Surprise palette, and I really like this. I like the shades that are in here. But again, I am a bit hesitant about keeping it because it's not one that I would probably like bring out and reach for, like, unless I'm panning it. That's kind of how I'm feeling. I really like the packaging of this palette. I like it a lot and I like how I curated it. But I just need to be honest with my collection, and I feel like I have way too many eyeshadows, so I might just have to put this in the declutter pile. I am probably going to depot a lot of these shades, but there's certain shades, like maybe like these ones especially, maybe even this one, that are duplicates in my collection. Maybe even this one will go, I don't know. I will have to kind of go through these and look at them, and especially with the other two ColourPop palettes, I think these will have shades that overlap. So even if I used to declutter a couple of shades from each palette, that means that I will bring down the eyeshadows in my collection, which is my goal. So yeah, I think I'm going to depot this one as well and declutter some of the shades. So these are the ones that I have left. Again, this is kind of when it gets difficult because most of these are monochromatic palettes from ColourPop, and the reason why I thought about decluttering them is because I don't reach for them like on an everyday basis. Obviously, if I want a green look, I will reach for like just my black palette. If I want the yellow look, I go for the Honey palette, and so on. But overall, it's not like the most kind of user-friendly palette for an everyday routine, if that makes sense. So that's why I've been hesitant about these. But looking at them now, I feel like I'm not ready to declutter most of them. Actually, maybe not even any of them. It's difficult because, like I said, I just feel like maybe if they were depotted I would reach for them more, but also it's easy for me because if I know that I want a completely yellow look, I can go for the Honey palette, for example. So that's why I'm thinking this way. Let's just go to the Dose of Color palette first. So I love the differentiation palette, I really do. This is one that I have been thinking, like, and it wasn't really something that crossed my mind that I would depot this. And when I kind of looked at it, it's just a lot of kind of matches in here that they are really beautiful. They're really, really soft and they blend beautifully, but again, it's just a lot of overlap in my collection. And then there are lots of these special shades which I would definitely keep if I depotted this. So that's kind of why I thought about depotting this, because it's again not a palette I reach for very often. I just reach for them when I wanted these special shades, and again I may reach for them more if I have them as singles. But I don't think I'm ready to depot this yet, because looking at it now, I don't really think there would be any shades in here that I would get rid of at this point. So I think for now I'm going to keep this, but this will probably be a palette that I depot in the future. So then we have come to, like I said, the ColourPop palette that I left here, and it is difficult. I was thinking about depotting or like removing some of the shades, whatever, and let's just open one up at a time. The Just My Luck palette I really, really like. The reason why I was thinking about this is because I actually realized that I had a lot of overlapping shades in here in other palettes. Oh, it's so difficult because I was ready to do it, but now looking at it, I'm not sure if I'm ready. It's so hard because I wanted to depot some of my 9 pan because I had so many of them, but now it's like, again, it's just getting difficult. I'm going to swatch some of the shimmers because these are kind of the ones that I'm thinking, but look at them, they're all so pretty. I think for now I am going to keep this as it is, but it might be one again that I'm putting in the future. The next palette I'm going to look at is the Honey palette, because I think this is probably the other one that I'm most likely to keep. I'm missing a shade again and I'm panning, but it is, I don't know, I like this palette. It is very, very monochromatic, but again, if I want a yellow toned look, I will go for this one. So I think I'm going to keep this at this point in time. And again, I have switched out the shade Palooza because I'm keeping all my pressed colors in my singles collection. So that's why, but yes, I think this is one that I'm also going to keep for now. So the last two palettes, and these are the ones that I've been thinking about mostly decluttering or depotting, because, for example, the Mint to Be palette is one that I don't reach for very often because it's so minty. I don't know, but I have actually fallen in love with this recently, and the thing is, I currently have this in my Shop My Stash, and I think I am going to keep this for now. I feel like I'm going to see how much I reach for it in my Shop My Stash. I'm going to play around with at least like all of these shades once, see if there's any of the shades that I don't like, any of the shades that are duds, and after that I will make a decision if I'm going to depot this and keep some of the shades in my C palette and get rid of the rest, or if I'm gonna keep this as it is. So for now it is gonna stay, but it's gonna be kind of on a trial basis. I'm gonna see again how I feel, and then this might go into my singles collection later this month. Then we have the last palette, and this is probably one that I am most keen to depotting. I love the It's My Pleasure palette, but I also have the Lilac Yellow palette, and I do actually prefer that palette a lot. This one I would say leans more kind of pink. I know it is purple, but it has like these two shades which are very pink, which are the main two transition shades, apart from this one which is technically more brown. But yeah, I think this is actually one shade that I might depot, because all of the shades I'm not sure I would keep. I would probably get rid of Pretty Cruel, maybe even Chiclets, although I have pan on it, and I hate the potting, like I hate the decluttering shades that I have pan on, because I'm so obsessed with the pan percentage, and I'm trying to get better at that, but it's just not like a shade that I love. So although I would keep most of these shades, again I think I might get more use out of this as singles, because if I want a purple look I would be more keen to reach for my Lilac Yellow palette rather than the It's My Pleasure. So I believe this will be another one that I will depot. So I have taken a break, and what I've done is I've labeled all the shades in my ColourPop palettes, because since they are magnetic I kind of took them out and I made little labels for them. I do have these type of stickers that I mark and I kind of write the name on, just so I can keep track of my eyeshadows after they pot them. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the 4 ColourPop palettes that I have here, and then at the end go to the Masquerade mini palette, because this one is something that I have to kind of take apart to get the shadows out, which is going to be more of a struggle. But I'm going to start with the ColourPop palettes because those are easy, because they are magnetic, and I did also bring out my single shadows here so I can compare shades and when I decide what to declutter and so on. So that's kind of what my plan is. But I'm going to start with the It's My Pleasure palette, and this is the smaller one of the bunch, and I do have this ColourPop palette here, which is where I'm going to put all of the shades when I depot them. So that's kind of my plan, and I'm gonna just say, like I said, start by taking all the shades out. I might actually take all of the ColourPop palettes like singles out and just put them out on the table, and then kind of decide what to keep. And also, some people have asked me, like mentioned this tool last time I used it in a video. This is just like a magnetic tool that I got off eBay. I think it's called like a telescopic magnetic pickup tool or something like that. I can see if I can find something similar and link that down below, but they're really cheap and affordable, and they're super good to like pick up eyeshadow palettes or like eyeshadows that are magnetic. So that is the It's My Pleasure palette. I am going to put this to the side and start with the next one. And just to show you, this is kind of what I mean. I marked all the shades with the shade names, so I know which shade is which when I start kind of going through all of the kind of palette and when I move them around and so on. Let's do the Yes Please palette next. This one is one that I think I'm going to get rid of a couple of shades, but I'm also going to keep a couple I think as well, but let's just take them all out and we're going to discuss that later on. So there we have the next couple of shades. Let's put them here as well, just so I have them all on the table. We have the She palette next. Let's go through, and again I am panning 2 shades, so those are missing in here, and obviously I will keep them. I do like both of those shades anyway. It's not like they're shades that I want to declutter, so I am just going to keep them. And again, just looking at all of these shades, look how much prettier they look when they're like out and together like this instead of the palettes. At least I think so, and that's kind of why I want to pot them and like not keep them in the palette, because I think these like out here together look stunning. And also like I do have kind of like these purple shades both in the She palette and the It's My Pleasure palette, for example, and I feel like those will kind of just work better together, and also I feel like some of them I can declutter. Then the final palette that we have is the Give It To Me Straight palette, which again is a mix of this and the I Think I Love You palette. So I'm just going to take all of these shades out and we can go through to the declutter. So there we have all of the shades, and like I said, it's quite a lot. Obviously it's 3 12 pan palettes and 1 9 pan. So that is 45 shades minus the 2 that I have outside of the palettes. But what I'm going to do next is I think I'm going to kind of categorize these into different categories so I can start decluttering them, because I'm going to start by looking at similar shades here and see which ones I prefer, and then afterwards I will compare them to the shades that I have in my palette now. So here we have kind of the purpley shades, and I think I'm going to start with these because obviously these kind of stick out the most, and out of here there's not too many overlapping shades. I think I'm going to declutter more when it comes to the warm toned shades, but I still want to like swatch things out and see so that I like them and things. So I'm going to put all of kind of the transition shades to the side, which I mean aren't too many, and I feel like they all are quite different. Let's just do all the mattes. So I kind of categorize them into mattes and shimmers now, and honestly they all are quite different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the shades that I know I want to keep. I'm going to start with the mattes. This one here is quite like different, so I'm going to keep that. I'm also going to keep this one. Then when it comes to these, some of them are quite similar. I do actually want to compare all 4 of these to what I already have, so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to start with the ColourPop palette because I feel like that's just easier, because I know that I already have a couple shades that are similar in here. So I'm going to compare these to these shades here. As you can see, some of them are very similar. So I think I might actually take these shades out and then compare them as well. So there you go. This one is definitely too warm tone, so I'm going to put that back in the palette. But here we have like the similar shades, and you can see that these two first off are very similar, these two are very similar. So I'm going to compare those two and probably declutter some of them. So the first two are these ones right here. We have one that is from the Element of Surprise palette, which is Blank Canvas, and then we have this one, which is ColourPop Give It To Me Straight in TMI. These two are very similar, so these two I'm gonna swatch and compare. So we have the first shade, and then we're gonna swatch the second one, and I'm gonna see which ones I prefer. So yeah, you can see they are very similar, and I prefer this one. Definitely, it's more pigmented. Question was just which one that was. I think it's this one. Yeah, it's this one. So that is the ColourPop Element Surprise in Blank Canvas. So this is the one I'm going to keep. This one is going to be Declutter, which is from the Give It To Me Straight palette. The other ones are like these ones right here. I guess all of these are quite similar, so I'm just going to swatch them together. Let's just start with this one. This is from the It's My Pleasure palette, and it is one of those with glitters. I think this one will be decluttered because I just don't prefer those shades. This one, oh, this one's really stunning. This is from the She palette. Yeah, that's quite a vibrant shade. We have this one, which is from the Element of Surprise palette in Silk Street, which I know I like. Oh, actually that is maybe even more pretty. Yeah, I like that too. And then we have the last one, which is from the It's My Pleasure palette again, and that one is there. Oh god, that is really difficult actually, because I feel like all of these are quite stunning, but I am gonna get rid of this one because I don't like the glitter shade. Although it is a stunning undertone, I just don't like the glitter kind of shade, so this one is gonna be decluttered. So out of the remaining 3, I actually quite like all of them, and I know I like these type of tones. I am gonna keep this one because I remember when I was working on this in my past eyeshadows, I really enjoyed this eyeshadow, so this one is gonna be staying. And then it's between these two right here, and I do like both of them. I feel like this one is more different, but also I feel like this kind of leans almost to the warm tones, and I feel like I have more of those shades than I do of the kind of purpley tones. So I think, I know these are very similar, but I feel like they are all still different. So I'm gonna, oh my god, this is so difficult. This is excessive keeping both. No, because I know I like this shade as well. So this one is also going to stay. This one is going to be decluttered, although I do think it's a stunning shade, but I just need to kind of minimize some of my collection. So I decided to move the camera down a bit so you can see better, but I'm not going to I'm going to put these two back because I know that I'm also going to keep them, so they just go in here for now. And I'm going to tackle the shimmer shades. So in here, I know I'm going to keep quite a few again. This one I'm going to keep because it's quite different. This one I'm a bit hesitant about. This one is such a stunning shade. I'm actually going to swatch these two next to each other because I feel like they might kind of serve a similar purpose, although they are quite different, aren't they? But this one is stunning. That is from the It's My Pleasure palette in Do Oh Do. That's going to stay. But I want to compare this to some shades in the Masquerade mini palette because I know I have those purples here, and I feel like these are quite similar, like all three of these, especially this one, which I think might be like almost a dupe. Oh, but that's way more vibrant. Let's do the other one. Okay, that's definitely blue, but okay, I was ready to kind of declutter the big one because I feel like I don't reach for these shades too often, but that is more vibrant, which is prettier in my opinion. But also, I know that I have another kind of similar purple single in one of my palettes, which is here. But I think that might be a bit more subtle, but it's this shade right here from Makeup Geek. That looks more blue again. But let's just swatch that as well. Okay, that's definitely different as well. I think I'm going to get rid of the ColourPop shade and I'm going to keep the Masquerade Mini shade because I prefer the shade of this. With the remaining ones, this is kind of again when it gets a bit difficult. I feel like this one might not even be purple. It's more kind of burgundy, I think. So I might put that with the warm tone shades because I feel like I have similar shades there. But this one is quite pretty. This is another one from the It's My Pleasure palette. This one is stunning. I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep this because yeah, I think it's very vibrant and fun. But also comparing it to things like this, I feel like they would serve a similar purpose. That's why I put them together, and I feel like actually they might. And I think I have a lot of similar shades to this. Not in like my small singles, but maybe in like my big palette. But for now I am going to keep this, and this might be decluttered later, but for now I'm going to keep that. And then the remaining three are stunning shades as well. This one is quite a, I think that's Mr. Salmon. It's such a like stunning and shiny shade. That's really, really pretty. And this is Earth Shine, which is also really pretty. That's also gonna stay. This one I'm a bit hesitant about. This is from the Elemental Surprise palette. It is in the shade Feels, which if I remember correctly is quite powdery, and I kept it because it's like an iridescent shade, but I have way more, like way better iridescent shades in my collection now. So this one I think is gonna be decluttered. Then we have the warm tone shades, which is where I think I will have a lot more kind of overlapping shades. I am going to start with all of the transition shades because again there is a lot of overlapping and I can see them already. Like all of these four are very, very similar. We have this one here. I'm going to include this white shade as well because I don't really feel it like it will suit anywhere else. This one is a bit different. We have this one. I'm going to include these. Actually this one I'm going to do later. Yeah, I think those are good because those are very, very similar. So I'm going to tackle these guys here first. So with these I'm going to start with the kind of light transition shades here. So I'm going to start with this one, which is the shade Champs from the It's My Pleasure palette. I really like this shade. That is first. Then we have this one, which is from the Elemental Surprise palette, which I think is more pink, but let's swatch them. Oh, that's really dry. I'm going to declutter this because it's, yeah, it's really, really dry where it shows up. So this one's going to be decluttered. Let's do this one next, which, oh, this one isn't marked. Oh, that's a bit annoying because I'm not sure where this comes from. I don't know. I'm going to swatch it though. Which one could that be? Because I'm pretty sure I marked all of the ones that I had. Maybe it's from the She palette. But that is it right there. We have this one, which is from the, I think, I Love You palette. I think this is going to be more brown. But there we have the first ones. Out of these, I like Shams the most. I think these two are the most similar. And this one is more brown. So I'm going to keep Shams. And I'm actually going to declutter this one because I feel like this is in between like Shams and like more brown shade. So this one is going to go. So I decided to pause and charge my camera for a bit, so if the angle has changed or anything, that is why. But I'm going to go ahead and swatch these kind of brown shades here, because I feel like, again, they are very, very similar. So we have this one here first, which looks like that. Then we have this one, which is more kind of like a medium tone. This one looks way more pigmented than the first one, and it also looks a bit more warm toned. And then we have the last one, which is, I think, quite similar to the last one. So yeah, these two are definitely very similar. I think I prefer the last one because it's not as orange. So this one is going to stay, this one is going to be decluttered. With the first one, I feel like this is more kind of cool toned. I'm going to swatch it again, build up the swatch. Yeah, that's definitely more cool toned. Actually, with this one, maybe I do want to keep the other one instead because it is more cool, like orange tones, and I feel like it's more kind of difference between the two. So I'm going to change my mind and I'm going to keep this one and declutter this one. I also just realized that I do have like an orangey tone in this palette, so I'm going to take this one out as well as this one, because I feel like that's also very similar to what I have here. This right here is actually quite similar to the browns that I swatched as well, so let's just compare that really quick and see if that's similar, but I don't think it is, so I'm going to keep those two anyway. So with these ones here, I'm going to swatch these and then these. I'm going to start with these two because obviously they are just like the cream shades. So I feel like I probably won't keep both of these because I don't use cream shades very often. And oh, actually they are very, very different now when I swatch them out. This is more kind of a typical cream shade. This is almost like a transition shade. That is a shade from the Give It To Me Straight palette, and then this one is from the Yes Please palette. So maybe I actually will keep both. No, I'm gonna declutter one from the Yes Please palette because I barely ever reach for these shades, and I do have other ones that aren't ColourPop that I have in this kind of format, so if I need a cream shade I will reach for one of those. Then we have the last three shades here, which are all kind of different possibly, but I'm gonna swatch them out. My hand might be a bit damp, so that might be why they show up a bit more intense, but I'm still gonna swatch them all out. So that is what they look like. I feel like they all look quite different. I am gonna bring this one in too because I feel like that might be quite similar to the shade that I used to have there. Oh yeah, that's definitely brighter and like nicer. So I think I'm gonna declutter this one, which is from the Soul palette, which is Dynamite, and I'm gonna keep this one, which is a bit more vibrant and nicer in my opinion, which is Big Cocktails from Yes Please. And then I'm gonna keep the other two because I feel like then those three are all different. So I'm gonna place all of these in this palette. Like I said, I'm not gonna organize that in this video because that would be way too long, but I am gonna place them in here. And I'm finding it already running out of space, but I do have quite a lot of shades left, so we'll see what happens, but I'm gonna try to fit as many as here as possible. So we have the rest of the shades right here. So with these, I'm gonna take out the shades that are different first and then kind of compare the rest. So out of these, I'm definitely going to keep this one. It's different. I like this a lot. I know that I do, so that's going to stay. The yellow also I want to keep. I like that. With the rest, I feel like I'm going to swatch this to see if it's a nice shade. And if it is, I might keep it. But I do also have a lot of these orangey tones. I don't think that swatches very well, so that can be decluttered. And I think those two are like the only shades that are maybe different. Maybe this one. Actually, no, that can be quite similar to those. Okay, I'm gonna keep these two and then I'm gonna swatch out and compare some of the rest of the shades. So with these, I am gonna start with the... Let's do the shimmers just to switch it up. So I'm gonna start with these kind of lighter shimmers. We only have these and I'm gonna kind of go into the rest. With these, they all look quite different, but it depends on like how they perform. That's actually quite nice. Then we have this shade. That's quite nice too actually. And then the last shade, which is not as nice, that is from the She palette. Yeah, I mean it's a slight duochrome, but I don't feel like it's that intense, and I feel like I have that kind of shade over and over in my collection. And although it is a stunning shade, I'm hesitating now. This will go in a maybe pile for now, but these two will stay. So then we have all of these kind of mid-tone shimmery shades, and I feel like I do have a lot of overlap in these. I'm going to include this one as well and this one. So yeah, those are the ones I am going to swatch. I just realized I forgot this shade, so I'm going to compare that to the other gold shade because I don't need both of those. So let's see which one I prefer. That's quite difficult. I think I prefer this one because it's slightly more unique, which is from the Yes Please palette, and this one is from the I Think I Love You palette. So this one is going to go, which is the lighter one, and then the other one is going to stay. So yes, with these kind of mid-tone shimmers, for example, these right here all look very similar, so let's start with those and see which one I prefer. Okay, so the last one looks quite different. I might actually continue swatching just some of the other ones that are similar, again, just to compare. Okay, so there we have those swatches, and I feel like there's definitely a lot of overlap here. I am gonna keep this one, declutter this one, because I feel like this one is more dimensional and they are quite similar tones. So this one can be decluttered and this one can stay. The one with the rest of the three, which are these three here, this one again is more dimensional and it's very, very similar to this one, so that one can definitely be decluttered. Then we have this shade here, which is technically different, but I don't think it's a very special shade, so this one can also be decluttered. So yeah, out of these, I am keeping these two middle ones and decluttering the rest of the three. Then we have these two right here, which I think look quite different. We have more of a cool toned bronze, which is there, and then we have this one, which is more of a warm toned bronze, but let's just swatch them and compare. Yeah, they are definitely different, so I'm going to keep both of those. With all of those shades, I think I'm going to declutter this one, which was in the Maybe Pearl, because I don't feel like this performs as well as the others, so this one can go as well. So I think we actually have enough shadows now to fill up this palette, so that will be an issue for the last shades, because I have a bit too many. I still have too many for fitting in here now. So that's what this palette looks like, and I really like having all of these shades together. I think what I'm going to do for now, because I like kind of having my press glues differently, like I had them in here when I had room, but I'm going to take them out for now, so I'd at least have a bit more room with the shades that are in here. So those can go, and then I'm gonna at least fit these two, and then with like the last shades I'm gonna see what I can do, but I have room for one more in here. Then we have these shades here. I forgot this kind of shimmer shade, but it's quite different from what I've had already, but it is quite similar to other things I have, and it might actually be, again, be similar to something that I have in my Masquerade mini palette. I feel like it might be similar to this one, so I'm gonna just swatch those two out quickly to see if they are. And yeah, I feel like they look quite similar. I didn't get a proper swatch of the ColourPop one. There. Yeah, they're definitely similar. So I think I'm going to keep this because I already have pan on it and it's smaller. And then declutter that one when I do get to depotting that palette. So we have come to the last shades, and in here there's definitely some duplicates. We have these three, which are, I mean, these two are very similar and these two are very similar. And then we have this one. So I'm going to swatch out the warm tones first and just compare. We have this red one, which I quite like. We have this like warm brown, and then this other warm brown. And yeah, out of these, I definitely think these two perform best. This one doesn't perform as well, and that is GNO from ColourPop, so that one can go, and I'm gonna keep these two. And for now, since I don't have room in the other ColourPop palette, I'm just gonna put them in this little C palette for now, and then I'm gonna organize everything later. And I think I'm gonna compare them to like my other single palettes. I don't think I will do that in this video because it's already very long, but I'm gonna put them in here for now, and then we can I'm going to maybe continue decluttering a bit on my own as well. But then we have the last two ColourPop shades, and we're done with that section. We have this brown here, which, oh wow, that's a very pigmented shade. And then we have this one, which also looks very pigmented. But yeah, that one definitely performs way better. So I'm going to keep this one, which is the French Kiss from ColourPop Yes Please. And this one is from the Give It To Me Straight In, actually. And that one doesn't perform as well, so this one can go. So from my ColourPop palettes, these are all the ones that I'm decluttering, which I think is 18 shades, which is pretty good. So that is the first declutter. I'm really happy with that. I mean, I kept a lot, but I also feel like I got rid of more than like a 12-pound palette. It's basically 2 9-pound palettes, so that's pretty good. So I'm happy with that, and yeah, that's gonna be all decluttered. So we have come to the other palette, which is my Masquerade mini palette. So this is a palette that I want to declutter as well on the pots. But this video is getting very, very long, so I think I actually might tackle that in a different video, because since this video is already so long, I asked on Instagram if you want me to split this video into two, and most of you said that you want me to keep this in one video, but some of you actually said split it up. So what I'm going to do to not make this too long is I'm going to put this in a separate video later this month, but it will be depotted and decluttered. And out of these shades, I think, like, for now I'm going to keep like a few of them. Like I said, I'm definitely going to declutter this one, but this one here will stay, for example, because I compared that. I think most of the colorful shades will stay. This one will be decluttered, like I said, and then from the neutrals I need to compare what I have in my collection, but like one of these two will definitely be decluttered. Maybe I'll only ever keep like one of these, for example. Like these browns I will compare this to what I already have. So I think at least probably half of this palette, maybe not half, but almost half, will be decluttered when I depot it. but I just mainly want this as singles, so I will do that in a different video. So I think I'm gonna wrap this one up for now. So there you guys was it for this video, and look at this aftermath now. This is why I put down a sheet on the table while I did this, so you can just throw it in the wash, because it is a bit messy here. But that is it for today. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and otherwise I'll catch you in my next video. Bye guys.